The laughter stopped mid-giggle. Jimmy Fallon's signature smile froze on his face as he noticed the small hand waving frantically from the front row. The Tonight Show studio, usually buzzing with infectious energy, fell into an unusual quiet as Jimmy squinted past the bright stage lights. It was supposed to be another perfect Thursday night taping. The Roots had just finished an incredible musical bit, the audience was electric, and Jimmy's guest interview with actress Emma Stone had gone flawlessly. Everything was running like clockwork in Studio 6B at 30 Rockefeller Plaza. But sometimes the most powerful moments happen when the script goes out the window. 7-year-old Danny Martinez sat in the front row next to his mother, Maria. His thick-rimmed glasses were slightly crooked, and a white cane rested against his small legs. Danny had been born completely blind, but his face radiated pure joy as he listened to every sound in the studio: the audience's applause, the Roots instruments, Jimmy's voice. Maria had saved for months to buy tickets to the Tonight Show. Danny had been going through another round of chemotherapy, and his doctors had finally given him clearance for one special outing. When he heard they were going to see Jimmy Fallon, Danny's face lit up for the first time in weeks. "Mom, do you think Mr. Jimmy really plays piano like on YouTube?" Danny had asked during their subway ride to Manhattan. "We'll find out tonight, sweetheart," Maria had whispered, fighting back tears as she watched her brave son's excitement. During a commercial break, Danny's small voice cut through the studio chatter. "Mr. Jimmy! Mr. Jimmy!" Jimmy heard it immediately. Something about the earnest tone made him pause his conversation with the producers and look toward the audience. He spotted the boy waving enthusiastically, his mother trying to gently pull his hand down, embarrassed. "Hey there, buddy," Jimmy called out, stepping close to the edge of the stage. "What's your name?" "I'm Danny. I've been listening to your show every night with my mom. You make us laugh, even when we're sad." Something in the boy's voice, a mixture of pure innocence and underlying strength, made Jimmy forget about the taping schedule entirely. He noticed the white cane and understood immediately. "Daddy, that means the world to me, buddy. Are you having fun tonight?" "Yes, but Mr. Jimmy, I heard the piano music earlier and I was wondering, could you play something? Just a little bit? I learned piano too, but I've never heard one that sounds like yours." The studio fell completely silent. Crew members stopped adjusting equipment. The Roots looked up from their instruments. Even the audience seemed to hold its breath. Jimmy glanced at the producers in the booth, who were frantically checking their schedules and signaling for him to wrap up the interaction. They had 3 more segments to tape, celebrity guests waiting backstage, and a strict network timeline to follow. Instead, Jimmy did something that would define his entire career. He jumped down from the stage, not the usual controlled descent he made for planned audience interactions, but an impulsive leap that startled his security team. Jimmy walked directly to Danny's seat, knelt down in front of the boy, and looked into his unseeing eyes. "You know what, Danny? That's exactly what we're going to do. Would you like to come up on stage with me?" Danny's face lit up like Christmas morning. His mother, Maria, started crying immediately, not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude that someone was seeing her son not as a disability, but as a person with dreams. "Really? I can come up there?" Danny's voice trembled with excitement. "Absolutely. Take my hand, buddy." Jimmy gently took Danny's hand and guided him onto the stage. The audience erupted in spontaneous applause, but Jimmy raised his hand for quiet. "Danny, this is my piano. Would you like to touch it first?" Danny's small fingers traced the edge of the grand piano reverently. The instrument was massive compared to the small keyboard he practiced on at home. He pressed a few keys softly, and his smile grew even wider at the pure, clear sound. "It sounds like angels," Danny whispered, his voice filled with wonder. Jimmy sat down at the piano bench and patted the space next to him. "Come sit with me, buddy. What's your favorite song?" Danny climbed up carefully, his small frame dwarfed by the concert grand. "My mom sings 'You've Got a Friend in Me' when I'm scared at the hospital. Do you know that one?" Jimmy's throat tightened. Hospital visits. This brave little boy was fighting something beyond just blindness. But instead of asking questions that might embarrass Danny, Jimmy simply nodded. "I sure do. Want to play it together?" "But I can't see the keys, Mr. Jimmy." "That's okay, Danny. Sometimes the best music comes from feeling, not seeing." What happened next wasn't just television. It was pure magic. Jimmy placed Danny's tiny hands over his own on the piano keys. Together, they began to play the opening notes of the beloved Toy Story song. Danny's face was radiant with concentration and joy, feeling every vibration through Jimmy's hands. When Jimmy started singing, his voice was softer than usual, more intimate. The studio lighting crew, without being asked, dimmed the harsh TV lights to something warmer, more gentle. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. By the second verse, something extraordinary happened. Danny began humming along, his young voice blending perfectly with Jimmy's. The audience wasn't just watching anymore, they were witnessing something sacred. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, Jimmy continued, his voice growing stronger as Danny's confidence bloomed. Halfway through the song, Jimmy noticed tears streaming down his own face. This wasn't the first time he'd been moved on his show, but this felt different. This felt like the reason he'd gotten into entertainment in the first place, to create moments of pure human connection. In the control room, producers who had been shouting about schedules and timing were now wiping their eyes. The camera operators, veterans who had filmed thousands of shows, were struggling to keep their shots steady through their tears. When they finished a song, the studio remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the audience rose to their feet. It wasn't the typical enthusiastic TV applause. It was something deeper, reverent, recognition of something beautiful and unrepeatable. Jimmy turned to Danny, who was still smiling from ear to ear, his small hand still resting on the piano keys. Danny, you just made my whole year. Thank you for reminding me why music exists. Thank you for letting me feel the music with my hands, Mr. Jimmy. Now I can play this song at home and remember tonight forever. Jimmy made a decision that would break every network protocol. He stood up and addressed his audience directly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet Danny Martinez. He's 7 years old. He's braver than anyone I know, and he just taught me something important. Music isn't just about hearing, it's about feeling. It's about connection. It's about love. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his personal business card. Danny, I want you to have this. When you learn new songs on your piano at home, I want you to call me and play them over the phone, okay? I want to hear every single one. Danny nodded enthusiastically, clutching the card like it was made of gold. Really? You want to hear me play? Every song, buddy, I promise. But Jimmy wasn't finished. He walked over to his piano and did something unprecedented. He removed the small nameplate that read The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon from the front of the instrument. This piano has been on my show for 5 years, Danny, but tonight it became something special. I want you to have this nameplate to remember that you're always welcome to make music here. The audience erupted again, but this time it was different. People were openly crying, including crew members who had worked on thousands of shows. The camera operators kept filming, knowing they were capturing something extraordinary. As Jimmy walked Danny back to his mother, the boy suddenly stopped and turned back toward the piano. Mr. Jimmy, can I tell you something? Of course, buddy. Danny's voice became quieter, more serious. I'm sick. The doctors say I might not get better. But tonight, sitting at that piano with you, I wasn't sick. I was just a kid playing music with his friend. Jimmy knelt down and pulled Danny into the tightest hug he'd ever given anyone. The cameras captured it all, but by now nobody was thinking about television ratings or viral moments. This was bigger than entertainment. This was humanity at its finest. Danny, you're not just my friend, you're my teacher. You just showed everyone in this studio and everyone watching at home what courage really looks like. Maria joined them, embracing both Jimmy and her son. Through her tears, she whispered, "Thank you for seeing him, really seeing him." The episode that aired 2 weeks later became the highest rated Tonight Show episode in 5 years, not because of celebrity guests or comedy sketches, but because viewers saw something real, something that reminded them why human connection matters. Danny continued calling Jimmy every few weeks, playing new songs over the phone. Each call lasted exactly as long as Danny wanted it to. Jimmy would clear his schedule, no matter what, to listen to his young friend's latest musical discoveries. "Mr. Jimmy, I learned Happy Birthday today," Danny would say excitedly. "Want to hear it?" And Jimmy would sit in his dressing room, phone pressed to his ear, listening to the sweet melodies of a boy who found joy in every note. 6 months later, Danny passed away peacefully in his sleep, after a courageous battle with leukemia. At his funeral, Jimmy performed You've Got a Friend in Me on a small keyboard, his voice breaking with emotion as he sang for his brave little friend one last time. To this day, The Tonight Show keeps an empty piano bench during every taping, a silent tribute to the boy who reminded an entire television studio that music at its core is medicine for the soul. And sometimes, late at night, when the studio's empty, staff members swear they can still hear the faint sound of two friends playing piano together, creating music that heals hearts and proves that the most beautiful moments happen when we stop performing and start caring. The nameplate Danny received that night sits in his childhood bedroom, now a shrine maintained by his mother. Next to it, a small photo shows Jimmy and Danny at the piano, both smiling, both lost in the magic of music that transcends sight, transcends illness, and transcends the boundaries between strangers who become family in a single perfect moment.